Welcome. This is Father Mark Toups, pastor of Christ the Redeemer Catholic Church in Thibodaux, Louisiana, welcoming you to a series of videos communicating changes to our youth formation. And this video is focusing on some of the specific details regarding to our changes to CCD. As we look at some of our new initiatives with youth formation, I'd like to divide our conversation in this video by reviewing the why behind the what that was in a previous video, very quickly reviewing that, and then specifically going into some of the details regarding the changes that we can expect in youth formation. So just for a moment, let's recap where we were in another video, in a previous video. Let's review the why behind the what. If you go to our website, ctrhddiocese.org, you'll find a video that focuses on our vision of youth formation, and I would like to just very quickly recap that. In that video, we outline the purpose of church as well as our vision for youth formation, and it was designed to help familiarize parishioners with new initiatives to what was formerly known as CCD. You might say the why behind some of our new initiatives or our edits to CCD. We began by just acknowledging that the church was founded by Jesus Christ, it belongs to Jesus Christ, and that his church has a mission. It was given to us by Jesus. Likewise, our parish, Christ the Redeemer, was actually founded by Jesus, and it belongs to Jesus. And Christ the Redeemer has a mission which was given to us by Jesus. The mission, of course, is to make disciples. We saw that in Matthew 28, the Great Commission. Before Jesus ascends to heaven, he gives us the mission statement. He gives us our purpose to make disciples. And we looked at our history as we were asking, well, how are we doing? In the last 40 years in our diocese, we've lost a third of our Catholics, right? We were founded with 67% Catholic. 2017, we celebrated our 40th anniversary. We're down now to 38% Catholic. And we can no longer say that South Louisiana is Catholic, right? So if we lose sight of the mission, then we lose sight of what God has asked us to do, and it has a negative impact on our diocese. However, there's hope, and that's what we outlined in part 2, as we have a vision to make disciples, especially for our youth, right? That approach needs to be age appropriate. It needs to focus on the student as much as it does the content. We want to bridge the gap between what we used to call CCD and what we used to call youth ministry. And if we're going to do that, then we have to form disciples and use catechesis as a means of forming disciples. What is catechesis? It simply means the theological formation. So we're going to use good teaching as a means of forming a disciple, not simply memorizing content. And that requires that we become experts in the students as much as we are experts in the content. It also requires relational ministry, which means that as we get older in our forming of youth, as our teenagers get older, we want to shrink the size of the classroom from the largest setting to the smallest setting. Our goal is that by the time our teenagers are in high school, in our youth formation here, there would be 4 adults for every 8 teenagers, right? A 1-to-2 ratio. It means that we have to meet our youth where they are. With age-appropriate formation, we're going to now group things in 3 different categories: our high school students, our junior high students, and our elementary students, with new structures. And as we took a look at those things in the first video, reviewing the why behind the what, now let's dive into some of the specific changes, edits to youth formation at Christ the Redeemer. And the first is just using the word youth formation. We will no longer use the word CCD. We will no longer use the word a DRE. And it's more of a vocabulary thing, but I think the vocabulary has some significant, you might say, influences on our imagination. We are forming disciples, and we want all of our young people to be formed as disciples. Beginning September 9th, 2018, we are introducing at Christ Redeemer a new Mass on Sunday night. That's going to start the weekend after Labor Day, a new Sunday night Mass. It'll be there every Sunday in and out of CCD, whether we're meeting or not, whether we're meeting in youth formation or not. We're going to have a youth Mass, you might say, every Sunday night. Why? Well, for a couple reasons. Number one, When I ask people about Christ the Redeemer and I ask them to give me one word that describes their experience of Christ the Redeemer, they often use the word home. And how many times have I heard people say, man, Christ the Redeemer, it feels like home. And if we're going to have a home here at Christ the Redeemer, we need a home for everyone. We need a home not only for our veterans who were there during our founding, but we also need a home for our young people. And we're hoping that the Mass becomes a place where the preaching and the hospitality are specifically tailored to the needs of our teenagers. You know, at our vigil Mass, our 7 o'clock Mass, they have a very particular personality, right? Because of the people who go there. And oftentimes, the preaching is really geared to where they are. 9 and 11 feel very different with younger families. And the preaching, the hospitality is designed for where they are. And yet young people today, our teenagers, our junior high students, they face different challenges than anybody. And we want to tailor the preaching and the hospitality to their needs, just like we would do for our other age groups at Christ Redeemer. The aim of youth formation is ultimately culminating in 12th grade. And what do I mean by that? Like the way that we're forming our disciples, whether that starts in first grade, carrying through junior high, is all leading to something, right? Our hope is that by as a high school teenager graduates from high school, that they are alive in their faith. And so it's not that ninth grade is completely separate from 12th grade, or that's completely separate from 6th grade, right? It's all building 1 year at a time, moving to help us by the 12th grade year be as mature and strong in their faith as possible. If our formation is anchored in the Eucharist, then it's going to anchor them as they transition after high school. In other words, the relationships they formed with the mentors throughout all of their time in youth formation, those people may or may not be available to them when they go off to college or they move to other seasons of life, but the Eucharist will be there. And so the Eucharist is going to anchor our young people throughout their life, especially in that transition. So because of the needs that they have, we want to tailor the hospitality and the preaching to them, and we want to anchor them in their celebration of the Eucharist. Can't encourage our young people enough to attend that Sunday night Mass at 5 o'clock, and I can't encourage our parents enough to either go to that Mass or allow their teenagers to go to that Mass. Now look, if your family worships together, and that's already a rhythm that you have, then praise God, you just keep doing that. But just a big invitation from my heart to all of our teenagers, our junior high students, and their families to check out our 5 o'clock Mass on Sunday night starting September the 9th. Formation is most successful when it's age-specific, and so as we look at some enhancements with age-specific formation, some details here, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to group now all of our initiatives in youth formation into categories. So we're going to have separate initiatives for our high school students, separate initiatives and ministry for our junior high students, separate initiatives for our elementary grade students. These three groupings are because there's three very different approaches to with it, we're going to form them. All of the approaches are going to have people who love them, and all of the groups are going to have the truths of the church. But the way that we shape that, present that, and walk with the students is going to be distinct based off of their age. And it's going to be driven in best practices. We spend a lot of time asking, what's working across the country? Right? As teenagers evolve and as teenagers are different today, you might say the challenges they face are different, then the resources need to keep up with the times. The way that we proclaim the timeless gospel always needs to be fresh and updated. And so the way that we now work with our young people is going to be grounded in really good research of what is proving to be successful. And as we look at our high school youth formation, of course, again, can't encourage us enough to understand the importance of Mass at Sunday night. It all starts with Mass. And then after Mass, our ministry begins for our high school students. So we're moving you might say, our night from Monday night to Sunday night now. as we work with our young people, especially our high school students, their night will no longer be on Monday. It'll now be on Sunday. And I'll walk you through the timing of that in just a couple seconds. But it starts with Mass, and then after Mass, on the first Sunday of the month, we're going to gather for what we call a life night. It's just a big night. It's open to all of their friends, including those who aren't enrolled, you might say, in what we used to call CCD. Perhaps they have friends who go to Catholic schools and who aren't in quote-unquote CCD. Like their friends can join them. It's a big night. There's a talk. There's an icebreaker. We break down into small groups, and then we kind of wrap up the night in prayer. It's just a beautiful night, using some resources that are proven to work. And those nights are more thematic, covering some of the hot topics that teenagers are facing that may not be covered, you might say, in the curriculum of the theological content. That's the first Sunday of the month. Second and fourth Sundays of the month, we're going to eventually be in small groups. We are traditionally used to here at Christ the Redeemer having our high school students in a big classroom setting, where we're going to actually now introduce smaller groups where we shrink the size, you might say, of the classroom so that they're in small groups. The ministry is much more relational and is designed to help them. Those small groups are going to happen on the second and fourth Sundays of the month. And then on the third Sunday of the month, the teens are off, and we're going to have some formation of our adults, ongoing formation for our adults who are working with our youth, just to kind of help them feel more comfortable and confident in what they are doing. Further enhancements for our high school students. Again, the Sunday night Mass begins on Sunday, September the 9th. Our first Life Night is on October the 7th, and then small groups begin in January, the second Sunday in January. We this year at Christ the Redeemer, from January through May of 2019, we're just going to use the regular curriculum that we've been doing. Our focus this year is really just on the new setting of small groups, getting that structure in place. And then we'll have a new curriculum beginning in the fall of 2019. So for those students who are expecting to be in confirmation prep, they're going to stay in confirmation prep. Those students who are expecting this or that at the different ages in high school, the content will be the same this year, but we're going to focus on a different setting in small groups. Then next year, beginning in fall of 2019, we'll enhance our curriculum by making some edits so that we better serve our young people. More enhancements for 9th through 12th grade. As we shrink the size of the classroom, right, we want to get into small groups with our high school students. We're looking for a 40-8 ratio. That means 4 adults to 8 students. That's a 1-to-2 ratio. Gives us lots of support for our teenagers in the conversations, in the relational ministry, and helping in the integration. And those small groups, you might say, are really going to help the teenagers thrive in their faith. We want to group teenagers by where they are rather than by the alphabet. So we want to assess, where are our 10th graders, right? How are they doing in the faith? And so if these particular teenagers are at this space in their understanding of the church, then they might put them together. But if these over here have more questions or just are struggling with different things, we want to put them together, right? We want to meet teenagers where they are and group them, and you might say like-minded groups, so that the conversations can be more tailored to where the students are. We are actively recruiting and forming our adult mentors right now. As you see this, we are continuing to recruit people and form people throughout the fall of 2018, so that as we begin small groups in January 2019, we're ready for that, so that those adults are equipped and confident in what they're doing with our high school students. We also have new initiatives for our 6th through 8th graders, our junior high students, encouraging them to come to the Sunday night Mass. And on the second Sunday of the month, we're going to bring back Super Sundays and our might say the retreat-like setting. On the second Sunday of the month, from 3 o'clock to 4:45, our junior high students are going to meet, right? They're going to meet before Mass, and it's going to end with Mass. So again, our junior high students will no longer meet on Monday night. They'll be on Sunday nights. And it's kind of anchored around that 5 o'clock Mass. They're going to meet before Mass, and then we're encouraging all of them to go after Mass. Those Sundays from 3 to 4:45, they're going to feel like little mini retreats, and we're also going to have 3 one-day retreats that are there to serve our junior high students. The calendar of all of that is online. If you go to our website, ctr-hddiocese.org, you can check out on our website a calendar specifically designed for our junior high students, letting you know the exact dates of all that. And then finally, enhancements for our younger students in elementary school. They're going to stay on Monday nights. We're going to split them into 2 smaller groups, though, 1st through 3rd grade and 4th through 5th grade. So just imagine, in the past, we've had all of those students on campus on Monday night. Now, 2 Mondays of the month, it's just going to be our 1st through 3rd graders, and the other 2 Mondays of the month, it'll be our 4th and 5th graders. Smaller, right? Much more attention to them, makes it easier for them. And we're continuing to do some research into the most effective ways, even for elementary school students. So we're going to continue with our curriculum as is right now, but we are looking at some of the best practices, you might say, across the country. We've been entrusted with a mission and your youth, and we are excited and honored to have your respect and your trust. We look forward to serving you. Rebecca Aboud is our coordinator of youth formation. You can reach out to her at the office. That number is 447-2013. Her extension is 212. Her email address is right there on the screen. Let us know if we can serve you. Let us know if you have questions. And until we see you, God bless you.